This video covers 3 years of creating this bonsai out of a very rough plant. This branch here, the main trunk, was actually going all the way into the back, and there used to be a second branch also going straight in the back. I had to cut it open, I bent this, then I styled it, I planted it onto its side because it is now actually these were roots. The whole plant has been tilted by 90 degrees. And this is the outcome now after the first 3 years of styling.
Hi, welcome. Have you ever wondered how pines this size get bent? In this video I'll take this branch, cut out the deadwood, wire it up and bring this top round to this area.
So in the end the aim is to carve this out because deadwood breaks before it bends. Then wrap it up in raffia and bend this whole trunk all the way around, coming back up here, creating the tree. This is a tension wire and it already is pre-bending this trunk here. This is all going to be deadwood, and in the end the tree is going to stand on its side compared to the current position. So let me get some carving tools and we'll first create a small channel on the lower side of the deadwood so we can separate it from the living trunk.
Yesterday we made the big cut here that separates the deadwood from the main trunk. I can actually now take this tension wire off, and after that I will use pre-soaked raffia, which I'm going to put around the living part. Then you pull the branch in and you tighten the wire. As said, in the end this branch is going to go up along here, so I'm going to make this curve much tighter, probably getting this point all the way there and then back in.
So after a couple of weeks the tension of the wood has let go, and you can, as you can tell, quite easily bend the branches further. So I'm just going to do that here. I'm going to take this one,
pull it in and try to tighten this up a little bit more. Eventually the tree is going to be planted like this. So I've been watering on this side of the pot mostly, but I want a root here to die off. So I'm going to plant it up in this angle already in a pot without disturbing the root ball any more than I need to get it into the new pot. Oh, I've got to stop. That's my alarm. There's a free Brazilian rain tree giveaway right now on YouTube. I'll be right back. Right, where was I? I was going to put this at an angle. I brought some substrate and I brought a brick. Make sure not to break any branches. I wanted to get a little bit steeper, but that's difficult. That should do it. So, second half of winter, time to take a look at styling this Pinus Mugo. But before we do, let's thin out the needles a little bit so that all the tufts of needles are of equal strength throughout the tree.
Vom Motorrad. Eine halbe Stunde mehr, 6 Kilometer Stau, weil es da einen Unfall gegeben hat. Das ist nur frei.
So gucken, dass er auch langsam mal
ja,
runterschneidet.
Letztes Jahr, ich weiß nicht, was wir da meinen. Ja, ich letztes Jahr. Geht so über mehrere Etappen.
Very healthy root tips here. This tree is creating roots right now. Optimal time for repotting. Look at these rocks. This is all the original collected soil. So I am going to take many of these rocks out, but I don't want to fully bare root it. So this is a bit of a balancing act between getting towards the core of the root ball, yet not disturbing it so much that it will die off. So I'm just shaking mostly, not trimming all that much of the roots. Very, very nice healthy roots in there. Nothing inside roots. Okay, really good. Now just being careful. Let's see if anybody wants to go in.
Now let's take a look here at this stump. This was actually left in place because I cut all these branches off initially. Then I made the new top here with heavy bends and I wasn't sure this was going to live. It did live, so now all the living parts can go. I am just using this little metal tool, but of course you could use a knife as well. But as I said, you don't need a knife. I'm now not going to use a knife. Right. After you've done that, you can take your knife or your tool and basically just slice up in the bark all the way to the top, and you do that to every single side branch as well. This of course only works well when you have a living branch. If you have a dead branch, the bark sits on this quite tight and this method doesn't really work. Now that this is completely debarked, it is time to look at the actual creation of Deadwood. So what I'd like to do is I take a little nib at the top of the branch and then I just bend it down. So it's halfway to a third broken through, and if you now pull down, I'm actually pulling the main fibers off of this branch. Burn off excess fibers. Make sure that you don't burn the foliage, but this is a nice way to clean off all the last bits and pieces. And now it's all this little stuff, right? This is never going to be Deadwood. This is all dead. It needs to be removed. But everything of, I don't know, half a centimeter or so, I'm just leaving in place. And with this all cleaned up, I can of course here now start removing the bark as well from these old woods. And just by splitting the roots like this, I already create interesting shapes, right? Now note that down here, I've not debarked completely. I've left a little bit of bark here at the bottom, and I didn't go all the way into the trunk with removing the bark. And there's a very good reason for it. This way I can avoid this part to be in the water. There's still sap in the bark, and I hope that this tree will keep some of the bark here down below alive. On the one hand, aiding roots, but more importantly, it stops the deadwood from rotting too quickly. Now this lump here on the top needs to be reduced considerably, and I want to go to these two side branches as the main part of the new trunk. Now by taking a chisel and really putting it into the wood, like this, and then bringing it up, you can actually lift a section from the inside. If you then pull that out, that creates depth here in your deadwood. These areas is really where these smaller hand tools shine, because it allows you to remove old bark, clean up these areas, and really not create harsh knife traces. You're basically just pulling it at the fiber level away. Really try to pull these fibers through these angles so that you pull down into the trunk and really get that nice texture here of branches that have broken down, and pull the part of the trunk down with them. I like to accentuate these places where a branch connects to the main trunk by deepening the groove that is left by the deadwood. It's a little bit tricky to get a hold of the individual fibers, but it really makes a difference if you lift a few more out and go deep lifting. Right, and with that, I think most of the Deadwood work here is done. I could, of course, now treat it with yin liquid or lime sulfur. I could, of course, now treat it with lime sulfur, but I'm not going to. I want this to age a little bit, so for this year or maybe even until next year, I'm just going to leave it as it is. So naturally, the wood can dry out, it can start to tear a little bit, and a few fungal infections take place, creating nice crackling, and after that I'll clean it up once more and then I'll add my yin liquid. So look at that, all these roots here. Could still be just a singular root coming from the main branch, but I'm going to gently remove some of this moss because I don't want to have to remove it later on when I'm potting it up. So I'm doing this very gently and seeing how far I can go without breaking any roots. Maybe I'll uncover more roots. That'd be really cool. There's the little metal wire that I put around it to hold the sphagnum in place. So maybe if I remove this, the whole thing will come off. No, it's quite stable. Guess I'm opening it up, looking at the roots, and then making the cut. And that is how we ended up here. All ready to go for another season. I'll fertilize it heavily now. It's going to go into full sun, and this Mugo pine will then start hopefully to create more backbuds. As you can see, I've removed a lot of the foliage. I've removed some of the branches. I still want it to be more compact. I'm undecided about this branch. I do think it gives character to the tree, but it is a bit of a pain having one of these cascading branches. Tell me in the comments what you think. Should I remove this branch or not? Anyway, this was Jelle, growing bonsai. In the description you will find some links to previous videos on this tree, working on the deadwood, making this bend. They have individual videos as well, and I'll link to them all the way in the description. This was Jelle, growing bonsai. If you don't know what to watch next, watch Pruning Pine or my latest video. See you next time.